Hi everyone, my name is Madeleine Penny. I am the Director of Photography for Avaunt magazine and co-creative director and owner of Studio MM. I started working creatively in photography when I became picture editor of Eureka magazine for the Times in 2009. The subject of this magazine was science and tech, and the content was really interesting. And importantly, photographers love the subject. And that's one of my most important early discoveries. When you're commissioning photography for anything, surround yourself with photographers who are genuinely interested in the subject they're shooting. Greg White and I went up to this nuclear plant in Snowdonia National Park. It was perfect for Eureka. It was quiet, graphic, architectural. And these boxes contained waste that would be radioactive for the next 250 years. The radioactivity was so strong in that room that there was a 20-minute time limit. And we pushed for 45 and set off the radioactive alarms on the way out, but it was definitely worth it for the photographs. Photojournalism like this comes about through a discussion between the director of photography and the editor. We talked about ideas that were scientifically interesting and visually engaging. Once we'd come across something that we were interested in, I would then contact the plant, ask them for permission, ask them to send photographs that they already had that were existing, basically try and give the photographer as much resource as possible. Every shoot that turns out well is all about good planning. The lovely thing about Eureka is that because we had such a great team, we were able to experiment. I'm not sure if many of you have come across Giles Revelle's work. He's great. He's had loads of brilliant ideas over the years. And these are CAT scans of plants created using the scanners below the Natural History Museum. Giles has been working on a project with the museum about insects, and so this is a different approach. This is about working with a photographer who has the idea first and working with them to produce something that's relevant for your magazine brand product. And one of the greatest perks of my job is to meet up with photographers and chat through ideas that they're working on, whether it's to help develop their ideas, talk about where it might be relevant to place it, or just be a sounding board. That's one of the most important jobs we do. We develop and nurture these relationships for years. I can meet photographers every week. There's only so much you can learn over an email, so meeting in person is absolutely essential. I always want to see personal work. I need to see how a photographer prefers to shoot, their personal style and preferred finish of their work, but also the subject matter. Laura Panak photographs people in a beautiful, haunting sort of a way. We travelled up to the Lake District to shoot 80-year-old fell runner, Joss Naylor. He changed the top in front of us during the shoot, and we were struck by his amazing, sinewy body. And so we asked him if he could keep his top off for a few frames. I know that Laura shoots fantastically well on film and digital, but I know that she shoots like this when she just kind of stops. She takes her film camera out and calms, and that's when she achieves moments like this. This story was photographed by Simon Norfolk shooting in the Arctic Circle. These structures measure the ionosphere, detecting all the debris that penetrates the Earth's atmosphere. Producing a shoot like this is really expensive, so you have to think to yourself, okay, if we're going to splash out on this shoot, we need to find ways to cut back on other shoots in the magazine. And that's also a massive part of a DOP role. You are constantly off-shooting one shoot against another, so you stay within budget. Another important relationship I developed at Eureka, and I cherish greatly, is the relationship between art director and photography director. Matt Curtis was art director of Eureka, and we pushed each other constantly to raise our standards and our ideas, and I've been privileged to work with some of the best art directors in the business, particularly Matt Curtis, Matt Willey, and Alex Hunting. I met Matt Willey when we redesigned the Four Seasons magazine together with Dan Crow. This feature was shot by Alexander Gronsky and it's all about the Second Mariinsky Theatre in St. Petersburg. Dan and Matt came back to me some months later to ask me to help develop a dummy for a new magazine they had conceived alongside the adventurer Ben Saunders. The proposition was for a stylish magazine dedicated to the subject of travel, adventure, science, and tech. The great thing about Avaunt is the space. It's a big magazine, 220 pages. The photography is allowed to breathe, and I can offer photographers the opportunity to really showcase their work. This feature was shot by Matthias Depodon and was a story about a woman from Germany who'd spent 30 years living as a hermit in the Georgian hills. I'd admired Matthias's work for a really long time, and the good thing was he'd kept me up to date about where he was based in the world, and it happened to be in Turkey, which is geographically really close. And that's really important for me, to constantly know where photographers are in the world, so I can manage logistically and financially how best to get the best work for the magazine, but also, again, keep balancing those budgets. I spend so much time meeting photographers and nurturing those relationships. It's great to be able to show their work well respected and presented. This story, shot by Frederic Lagrange, was shot over the Alaskan glaciers, and it also made last issue's cover. The other thing about commissioning work for Avaunt is, although the magazine has a personality, and I think Avaunt's photography does have a certain appearance in terms of its maturity and finish, I also don't want the work to become too formulaic or predictable. I think pace in photography is as important as pace in design, and I think it's nice to surprise and challenge readers. It applies to all aspects of the magazine. So there's this shoot by Owen Silverwood, and then it can work alongside a shoot like this, such as Daniel Steer's antibiotics resistance story, which captures the chaos and the artistry of a lab. Basically, it's about using the best photographers to shoot the best work. So it can sit alongside anything. This story by Klaus Tiemann, is another type of photography, but I think the thing I'm saying is that it's really important that you mix it up, change pace. These are a mixture of shoots I've attended and worked with a photographer on to shoot to develop. Others we've discussed in detail beforehand. We swap mood boards and ideas and try to be as clear with one another as possible about what we'd like to achieve and what we hope the final shoot will be. This shoot by Klaus Tiemann was actually really dangerous, and that's another really important thing about my job. I have to make sure the right insurance is in place, and that I have a duty of care to look after our photographers. When planning portraiture, it's really important to discuss mood. This first shoot here, the adventurer Erling Kagge. Erling was the first person in the world to walk alone to the South Pole. I wanted to show him as determined and single-minded and mysterious. And I think the photographer Lars Peter Peterson did really well to capture him like this. Normally he's sort of photographed with wild hair and rosy red cheeks, and I just wanted it to be more serious. And I like the energy and the movement in it. I think it reflects who Erling is. And also it was good for the book. We needed some pace and movement at the front of the magazine, and this really helped. The next shoot I'm going to show you by Nadav Kanda was shot for Mondial magazine for the cycling brand Rafa. Norman Foster is one of our most important architects, having designed the Gherkin, the Great Court at the British Museum, the Reichstag in Germany, amongst others. Nadav and I swapped images of Lord Foster's buildings. We discussed what made him unique and what made his buildings unique. The graphic lines, the light, the pools of light created by the structure. We discussed how light changed throughout the day, what light is, and the spectrum of colours within it. And finally, we looked at images of Norman Foster. What are his standout features? That's him on the right. He's got a good shaped head, maybe not from the front, but maybe more interesting from the side. And then we looked at Nadav's previous shoots. I like the movement in the Brian Eno image on the top left. I think it's nice for showing artistry. And the image in the bottom left, I love the shade going across the woman's face, is a way of applying it to our shoots. The sequence that we created, I feel, reflects Norman Foster, the architect and the artist. And again, here it's worth noting the relationship with the art director. Alex Hunting created this layout. This type is structural and bold, and the pace is right, and it completely respects the shoots. I think Mondial is a really interesting example of a brand having an editorial voice at a time when traditional newspapers and magazines are struggling and budgets are disappearing. The lines are blurring between editorial and advertising, and that's why Matt Curtis and I have set up Studio MM to explore the space in between the two as a way to make new and interesting work. I'm going to end with a short brand film that we made for Nike with an editorial narrative. We shot this with David Ryle, and it was a really interesting one for me because it took all those principles into account and applied it to another medium. Thank you.
When I run, I concentrate on the journey as opposed to the end goal. Instead of thinking, right, I need to finish this, I break it up into small pieces. It's more about getting to different points in the run. The next lamppost, the next traffic light. Sometimes I count my breathing. Sometimes I count footsteps. When it starts to hurt, I think of the adversity I have overcome. I think of my family, my girlfriend. I always know I can push on for a little bit more. Although my body has given up, I clear my mind and just carry on.